Hello and welcome to Extreme Academy Live. This is where you come to advance your knowledge, advance your skills and advance your future. Thanks for advancing with us. This is week 8. Oh, it's like a bit of a sad face. You know, we're coming to the end. It's been great having you join us on these live streams every week. We're sad we're coming to the end, but we've got a great episode for you. We've got more of the same that you used to, but we've got some special surprises for you as well. So Isaac, how are you doing? And what have you got planned for this week?
Yeah. Can you believe it? The last one. I think it's fantastic. Sad maybe in a way, but also so happy. We've come through so much. We've taught so much. People have learned so much. There's been so much goodwill, so many comments, so many responses. It's been really fantastic, but it has been a wonderful opportunity. So I'm going to be doing a session today, Rowan, or certainly the first part, where I'm going to be talking about managing wireless. So we've gone through all the, or certainly many of the little bits and pieces that make up wireless, from the bits, the bytes, to last week's session where we spoke about security, right? Lots of different pieces and a broad range of subjects. So we're going to finish on managing a wireless network. If you've got a wireless network in a company, etc., or you're thinking of putting something like this in, I'm going to show you I'm going to show you 6 things that you as a network admin or somebody involved in managing wireless need to be aware of or can use, all from the ExtremeCloud IQ product set. So it's going to be about, a lot of it is about the demo. I'm actually going to show you how we do these things, and you're going to be seeing it on screen. So it's going to be an interesting one, and we'll use that to finish off the course on building robust, scalable and robust wireless networks. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay. Yeah, sounds fantastic. So that's the first half. Then we'll do a break, and then me and Isaac will be back together. We'll be taking you through some topics. We'll be talking about what's coming next, how to get into the exam, a few extra things as well in the second half. Okay, so we're going to get going. So final thing to say, just remind you that if you've got any questions, then you can put those in Meeting Pulse. Now, a lot of you did last week. We got some tough questions. It really got our engineers thinking about some of those aspects of security, so keep those coming. And we'll also show the Discord server as well. So we'll talk about Discord in the second half of today's episode. You can use Discord to interact with the rest of the class. So Isaac, over to you. Let's begin.
There we go. Without further ado, let's jump straight in. Management architecture. Let's talk about management architecture. Let's start off by looking at and reading, always as we do, the objectives. Learn about on-prem management, learn about cloud management, and then touch on a little bit on SDN. So every network device, every network system has to perform at least 3 distinct activities, okay? And we need to understand what they are, and we need to understand as well where they are performed or where they run from, okay? So those are the 3 things that we're going to understand, that we're going to be working through. And I'm going to bring up this slide over here, and we're going to take a little minute here or two just to talk about this concept of planes, P-L-A-N-E, not as in the aeroplane, planes as in, I want you to think about this as the way we think about layers. So in the first course, we described and spoke about and spent some time talking about the OSI model. And we said that the OSI model is made up of these 7 layers. But the other thing that we said as well is that the OSI model is a conceptual model. You can't touch an OSI layer 3. I mean, yes, it works with routers and stuff, but it's a conceptual idea that describes what happens on your actual network. And this concept of planes is the same thing. It's a conceptual idea that helps describe so that we understand networking when spoken about in 3 different planes, 3 different layers. If any of you have ever worked with Photoshop or a photo editing program, you will be familiar with the concept of layers. So you take a photograph and then you might want to change the sky, for example, put a darker sky or something to that effect. So what you can do is you create another layer and you do the editing on that layer of the sky, right? And then you might have something else, other editing that you want, and so you would create layer upon layer, and in the end you can kind of merge them all together, and then you end up with a photograph. But you keep them in layers so that you can work on different sections like the sky, etc., etc. Think about that concept. Now in networking, we talk about these, when talking about management, we're talking about three different planes. The data plane, we talk about the control plane, and then we talk about the management plane. So the management plane is probably the easiest to understand, because all of us can kind of picture that in our head, right? If you've worked with ExtremeCloud IQ, it's the management plane. We would know and we would touch and we would feel, and we'll do that later by logging on to ExtremeCloud IQ, yeah, with credentials. You end up in a browser, and then you have the ability to manage, okay, from one pane of glass, from one single pane of glass, to manage your network. And that could be by doing things like creating policies, user policies and radio policies, and all of these types of policies, security policies, and then pushing them down to your devices. Management layer. Then you get this control plane or management plane, control plane and data plane. So the best description that I came, or the best idea that I had to describe what happens on the control plane and on the data plane is as follows. Imagine a busy intersection, right? I've been to Texas a few times, and there are some intersections there that are seriously scary, to drive. Like, whoa, where do I go? Having said that, if you go to the Champs-Élysées in Paris, it's even more scary. But you have this intersection, 4 roads appearing. So it's a cross, right? 4 roads, and on each road you have maybe 3 lanes each side. That's a lot of cars, a lot of traffic when it's really busy. The control plane is your traffic lights. And the signs that you find when you get to that intersection. The traffic lights will tell you, if you're going to go across this intersection, then the light for you is red. And it says to you as well, if you're going to turn left across this intersection left on the other side, then the light is red for you as well. And the sign on this side, if you're on the right-hand side, right-hand lane, the sign in the US would say, well, you don't have to, those lights don't apply for you because there's a slipway. All you need to do is just look left, and if you see no oncoming traffic, you can ignore the lights and you can just veer off on the left and veer off on the right and turn right. So there will be other signs, right? There will be other signs. There might be a speed limit sign. There might be an information sign. There might be a warning sign. There might be a number. If it's a railway crossing, you'll see a rail sign. But you get the idea. Those signs and those traffic lights, they are the control plane. If we describe them in actual networking terms, think about this as the information that controls the flow of traffic, the flow of data on your network. Your routers, for example, they will have protocols, things like OSPF and ISIS and BGP. Those are all the rules that control the flow of traffic, right? Control plane. The data plane is the cars, the vehicles. they are being managed they are actually taking the data, they are taking the passengers left, right, going here, across there, over here. They are real time, they are working, they are performing, they are behaving according to the control plane, according to the rules set up in the control plane, the data plane. I think that that's the best way that I can describe it. Now, if it's not good enough for you, and it's quite possible, there are tons of resources that you can find on the internet that will describe all of these in more detail. So add to your knowledge. I'm a big advocate, and I've said this often on Academy. Don't just stay with this to expand your knowledge. Yes, I'm teaching you. Yes, you're learning about this. And if this is the first time that you're learning about that, fantastic. I hope that example has been easy for you. But back it up by going to find more information and reading a little bit more. But if you can get that image that I painted in your head of the traffic lights and the signs and the information signs in an intersection, if you can understand that, say, okay, I understand control plane controls all the traffic, the direction, where, how, when, and turn, all of that. Control plane, great. Management plane, that's easy. That's just the GUI where you set that's easy. Then the data plane, the cars, the real time. So if you get that, perfect, bango for you. So now that we kind of got those three things in our head and we know where we're going to go with that, let's talk about the brain, right? Think about the brain of our body. The brain in our body is controlling a whole host of things. It controls our vascular system. It controls our motor neuron system. Controls our nerves. It controls a whole lot of different systems inside of us that together make us function. So if you had a brain on a wireless network, for example, on a wireless LAN, what kind of things would you want that brain to do? Or what kind of things would that brain do? Now, if we think about the things that we've already spoken in the previous lessons about access points and wireless and all of those, then there's a whole number of things that come to mind. For example, a brain should be able to determine channel selection, radio channel selection. So when I as a client connect into a wireless network, an access point brain or a wireless network brain should say, okay, this is the channel. I have these channels available. You're gonna connect to me on this particular channel. Yeah. It should be able to determine a brain about power selection. More power, less power. A brain should possibly be able to make that decision, right? Load balancing. How do I balance this load? I have many people coming into the office, coming into a particular space. Is it possible for me to balance the load across the AP so that you don't have one single AP, falling over because it is so busy? What about enforcing things like authentication? Yes, you come in with a device, you connect to the network, and the network says, I've been told if that is not a corporate device, if that is not a corporate laptop issued by Extreme Networks, I am not going to allow you on the network unless you provide for me specific authentication for that. So a brain would need to do something like that. What about bring your own devices? If you bring your own devices, last week David Coleman was saying that one of the biggest threats that you have on a security, on a wireless LAN, is people bringing in rogue access points. And we said we have WIPs. A WIPs is the solution that will be able to nullify that, for example. But if that were the case and someone brings their own device, a wireless brain, if it was a network, would figure out, hey, there's an intruder over here. Wow. There's something, you need to do something about that. You got to get that device out of here. What about the firewall, right? A firewall as well. Think about when you go to a football stadium, a rugby stadium, cricket stadium, whatever, you walk in, what do? They do a security check, right? And if you come in with a rucksack, what are they going to do? They're going to open that rucksack, say, sir, can you please take everything out? Just like at the airport, you go through and you have to unpack everything, lay everything out for them to do a deep packet inspection. If you don't have a rucksack, they might just say to you, yes, sir, you can go through. They might just scan to see if you're carrying any metal things into a stadium, for example. But a deep packet inspection means they say, we check your pockets, yeah? We check your pockets, we check you frisk you down, and then please take the rack. We check everything. We open up the boxes inside. We go check to make sure that there's nothing inside. Do you understand? So if you had a brain for an access point, it would need to do something like that as well. The other thing it would need to do, it would need to think about if you put quality control, right? Quality of service rating. If you said, hey, if on the management level you'd said, hey, treat this particular packet or packet from this particular source, treat that type of packet with a higher priority. For example, voice calls, for example, or for certain applications like Zoom. If you could say, treat Zoom traffic with a higher quality service, then the brain on that AP would have to identify that and then say, oh, that needs to get priority. I need to treat that one first before I treat the rest. What about roaming? Access point would need to be really good at roaming, right? Because someone comes in with a device, they connect to an access point, and then they walk 5 meters. That one might have a stronger signal than the original one. Well, guess what? It needs to hand over to the second access point so that the second access point can just pick up that signal and serve the consumer all at the same time without the user, having a problem with an IP connection, like, oh, I don't have an IP address anymore, things like that. And on top of that, maintain sessions, right? If you're busy doing a transaction, to book yourself a flight, to Italy, for example, and now you move to another access point, that session, you don't want to lose that session. That session needs to continue. So you'll see that the brain of an access point, the brain of a wireless networking would have lots of things. If you had a powerful brain, it would need to do lots of things to give you a powerful management of this wireless network. Let's talk a little bit about control plane, the traffic lights. Not the one on top, the traffic lights. And maybe go through a little bit of history, right? You have different types of management, okay? You have APs with centralized on-premise wireless LAN controllers, and we're going to cover that in a little while. We're going to cover that a little bit more, wireless LAN controllers, and we'll cover that by looking a little bit at the history. Once you understand the history, then some of these things make perfect sense to you. And companies like Cisco and Aruba, they kind of have this access point with a centralized on-premise wireless LAN controller. Okay, then you get APs that have a mix of cloud and on-premise wireless controller functions, okay? And again, Cisco Meraki use that type of a solution. And then you get the other one, which is APs that use an elected AP as a controller. So if you have, say, 100 APs, there will be an election and they will elect one of them as the controller, okay? And it will do some of the local AP control exchange, Aruba Instant, Cisco Mobility Express, okay? So these are just different methodologies that you would implement for the brain, different ways of managing a network. And then you get APs with protocol-based cooperative control and flow-based forwarding. I know that's a long term, you don't have to remember that, but think about the cooperative control. That is important. Think about that. That might pop up in the exam. That is Extreme Networks does things like that. So now that we understand those pieces, let's go to the difference between on-prem and cloud-based wireless LAN management, cloud-based brain management. Okay. I think we've heard this before. I think I've spoken about this before. The term network management system, NMS, network management system. Sometimes they say network management solution. Keep that in mind. That's one of those important acronyms, okay, for us to understand. We're talking about wireless management, but a network management system would manage both wireless and wired. ExtremeCloud IQ, for example, it has its origins in wireless. It was originally designed for wireless networks. But nowadays, ExtremeCloud IQ has evolved where it's a network management system that manages end to end. It does both wireless and wired devices. Switches, for example, it's part of that. It does wired and wired. It does both. So you get the idea of the terms that we're talking about. So what are the differences? Well, one of them is, if you really want to talk about it, financial, because it's really important. Remember, when we spoke, I think in episode 4 roundabout, we spoke a lot about admin things, about how finance is always involved in the planning and design of networks. You've got to always think about the accounting guys, the guys with the dosh, the guys with the mullah. It's important. They have to understand, and it's your responsibility to make them understand. But on things like this, an on-premise approach would mean, and of course you have both of these even in extreme networks, an on-premise approach would mean that you would need to buy brains. Okay, if you're going to buy 100 or 200 or 500 access points, and you're going to have a brain managing those access points, if it's on-prem, it means you have to spend the money to buy generally speaking, a physical box, a box that looks like a switch, a brain that you'd put into a rack, and that would then manage a whole ton of access points, right? Or a number of access points. So you'd have to consider cost of doing something like that. That's very important. And that of course goes under the category of capex, capital expenditure. That's something that accountants don't always like. A cloud solution, on the other hand, that is kind of a subscription model, and accountants love the subscription model. Think about something like Microsoft Office 365. I mean, it's a good product. Let's not kid ourselves. But the reason accountants love it is because it's very easy for them. They can say, okay, we have 500 employees. They are paying X amount of dollars per month. Thank you very much. And it's very easy to budget. It's very easy to handle. It's not complicated. Subscription model makes so much sense. So in cloud, one of the very big sellers of cloud is that your capex is minimal. Yes, you have to pay for access points, but because it's a subscription-based model, the cost of the access point is not that huge because it can be built into the subscription model. So it's easy. Accountants look at it, say 100 access points, X amount per year over 3 years. That's great. For the next 3 years, I've budgeted. It's all sorted out. So it's not CapEx expenditure. It's operational expenditure, OpEx. So cloud, really fast to deploy. You don't have to order a wireless LAN controller. It's really because the cloud is there all the time. It's just ready. So management of this is much faster. Virtually unlimited scalability. With wireless LAN controllers, you'll always get things that will say this wireless LAN controller can control 500 access points, maybe 1,000 access points. If you want to control 1,001 access point, oopsie daisy, you have to buy another one of these. So it can scale, but it scales in a different way. As you scale up, you need more wireless LAN controllers. And cloud, how many do you want? You got 1,000 APs, you got 5,000, you got 10,000, you got 50,000 APs. So what? It's up in the cloud. You just scale as you want. So it's important, though, I need to tell you this, that it doesn't mean that every customer and every organization is ready to move into cloud. There are many of Extreme's customers, and there are many customers in the world, not just ours, from other companies as well, that are not ready, for example, at this point in time, to go to cloud for many reasons. There are many reasons they might not do that. They might have a massive investment and they want to keep on with that. That's fine. The way of managing on-prem controllers, absolutely fine. But cloud brings a new dimension. New companies getting into business, like, why would you want to do that unless there is a specific requirement of that? But take it to the cloud and you get so many more benefits than dealing with physical hardware and CapEx and all of those things. Data security, of course, in cloud, that then passes to the operator or to the company supplying it. So, like in our case, Extreme Networks and the cloud provider, right? It's a combination of those two. But when I talk later about those 6 things, one of those 6 things that we're going to be focusing is going to be on security, and I'm going to touch on security and how important that is. So, okay, now I know about the planes, now I know about on-prem, and now I know about cloud, okay, and now I know about the brain and what the brain would have to do. Cool. So how on a day-to-day basis, how then do you manage a wireless network? Well, there's lots of ways, but when we talk about on a day-to-day basis, well, for those of you who work with ExtremeCloud IQ, you will log in to a GUI, graphical user interface. You will log into a GUI. The GUI is almost always an application that runs in your browser. That same browser that you're familiar with, where you browse to your websites and all of that, that's it. It runs inside there. So using it and getting to it is easy for most of you. Now the browser, of course, because it's GUI driven, it means that a lot of the little jobs, a lot of the little bits and pieces of software are either in colors or in locations that are easy to identify. The GUI has been really powerful. It was a powerful game changer because people are visual, and we see things and we recognize patterns and we recognize icons and we know what those icons mean. And so developers take advantage of that. But that's not the only way. That's one of the ways to do it. Another way that you would manage a network, and by managing a network, you could manage a switch, you could manage an access point, you could manage a computer, for example, would be something we call the command line interface, CLI, command line interface. If you're a young man like me, then you would remember something we call the command prompt, which used to run in DOS. DOS was an operating system that predates Windows. So you'd have to be really young to remember stuff like that. But some of you, come on the chat now. If you go for it, just put it on the chat there. If you've worked with DOS, not Linux or anything, if you worked with DOS, just identify yourself. Put your hand up. There's a bunch of you that worked with DOS before DOS became Windows. But those guys, we call them propeller heads, right? The propeller heads, they are very familiar and they enjoy using GUI command line interfaces. If you ever watched any movies, where there's a hacker, he never uses a GUI. They always, you always see them typing away on their keyboards, command line interface, and they type all of these commands, and everybody's like, oh, the guy's a god. Look at what he's doing. Why do people use command line interfaces? Why? I mean, if you've got such a fancy GUI, why do they use them? Number one, speed. Right? Number one, speed. Number two, because you look like and people think you're a god. So that's got to be number two, right up there. But number three, I think, is speed as well. You see, in the GUI, if you think about every possible option of things that you can do in the GUI, You couldn't have enough icons or buttons or drop downs for everything that is possible to do on a computer or a network, a switch, or an access point or whatever it is. So they generally group functions together in a GUI and the most popular functions together. But if you really want to understand computing, someone once said to me, if you wanted to know Microsoft Windows, use a mouse and the GUI. If you want to really know how a computer works, use the command line interface and the keyboard. And I guess that's true. There's a lot of commands in the command line interface that are so granular, that give you so much control, so many more options with what you can do. But it does require you working on this all the time, because some of those commands are really long and they can get very complicated. I'll show you an example over here. This is what a command line looks like. Now, most of you who've never really worked much with command line, it kind of looks like this, but in opposite, right? That screenshot where the background should be black and the text should be white. But you would have to type some of those commands. And people are lazy, generally lazy, right? Who remembers to type a phone number? We just want to press a button and say, oh, phone Isaac, because that's who we are. But people who really manage networks, they're generally driven by Linux and they're driven by CLI. They love this stuff. So there's these two ways that you manage devices, and this is what a management software looks like. This could be a standalone piece of software or run within a browser, and you can see all the types of parts that are identified over here. Now again, if you've never used something like this and it's the first time, you're just going to be just as lost as somebody on the CLI who's just getting on that CLI for the first time. It's just it. But the more you practice, the better you get at it. You learn the patterns, and it's the same thing with the people who use CLI. Exactly the same. Now, Wi-Fi, like everything else, and like stuff we've spoken about before, is constantly evolving, right? It's constantly evolving. It never sat still. But originally, access points had very little intelligence on them. And that was okay, really, because there was very little need for them to talk to other access points. You had an office, somebody sold an access point you thought would be a great idea. You put an access point there, great, it worked. But as the years rolled on, as things started to change, and more corporates started to use it, and then it came the second access point and the third one, and one in the boardroom, and one in the chairman's office, and one in the CEO, and one in the canteen. Once you started to do that, then the need started to arise for a way to manage that, right? Because with embedded control, with the first part where you had, a little bit of intelligence in there, it wasn't good for enterprises. You couldn't really scale. And what do you mean? Some people might say, what do you mean by scale? Well, the ability to grow exponentially without growing costs, user counts, user people, amount of people, etc. So the ability to grow exponentially while keeping your costs and everything else associated and support costs really, really small. That's what we're talking about. That's why cloud makes sense, because it can scale exponentially. And when you don't need that anymore, you can shrink down. So you can scale up and shrink down very easily without having to hire and fire people. That's kind of what we mean by that. But single access points, a little bit of software, they didn't scale. They were not great for enterprise, maybe for home. But soon, as companies started to develop and grow, we started to detect the need, for centralized controls. Like, we've got 50 access points. I can't run around to everyone doing individual updates. There's got to be a way. And the wireless LAN controller was born. WLC. This is important. Write it down. Wireless LAN controller was born. a physical device that controls a whole range of APs. And by then you start to see, okay, it controls a whole lot of them, a centralized box that then becomes the brain of the wireless LAN. You'll see this term thin AP, okay? Thin AP. What do we mean by that? We mean, well, it only has a few services on it. It only does a few things on it. And most of the brain power goes into that physical controller, okay? So in an ideal world, we would have placed all the intelligence onto an access point. But back then, it was impossible to do and very expensive to do something like that. So the lightweight access point, the thin AP, used to deal with the data plane. Remember the data plane, real-time radio frequency and encryption related tasks. So that's what it really did: encryption and real-time RF tasks. That's all it did. The rest of the stuff would be managed by using a protocol, and I'll cover that a little bit later, called CAPWAP, and using this protocol, and it would then be run on the physical controller. This then became an scalable model that could be used in the enterprise, right? Because you could grow the amount of access points, grow them, control them from one central physical device. And if you outgrew that, well, then you put a second wireless LAN controller and you scaled it up that way. I use this term CAPWAP before I joined Aerohive, and then obviously Extreme. I had never heard of this term. I must confess, the first few times that I heard it, I kept thinking, catnap. Catnap. What's a wireless network got to do with a cat sleeping? Catnap. It's like, no, CAPWAP. CAPWAP. It's like, oh, CAPWAP. So it took me a long time to get. But basically, CAPWAP is a protocol, and it's specifically built for wireless communication, for wireless LAN communication. So one of the specific functions of this CAPWAP is the concept of splitting the management and control, the MAC, management and control, management of control of 802.11. So we've spoken about the 802.11, standard protocol and all the variations of that. So CAPWAP allows you to split the control and management functions of that, so that you can put some of the functions on the access point and some of them somewhere else, like a controller. And so what are some of the things that CAPWAP AP functions do? For example, frame exchange, handshake between a client and an AP. So when a client connects to an access point, it's going to be using the frame exchange handshake. It's going to be done with CAPWAP. The beacon frames, the transmission of the beacon frames. What are beacon frames? That's an access point saying, hey, I'm here and I have a wireless network called Isaac's Guest Home Network. Hey, I'm here and that's what the beacon frames are. Response to probe request frames from clients. Provision of real-time signal quality information. So CAPWAP will have that information about the quality of that connection, that client to AP connection, which of course is fantastic because that can then be fed back into a system like ExtremeCloud IQ. Monitoring each of the radio channels for noise and for interference, monitoring for the presence of other access points. So CAPWAP is a protocol that allows for all of these things. You can see it's a really powerful protocol. Learn it, study it, read about it. It's good to know, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple of questions in the exam about CAPWAP. So we continued. We went from a single AP with some software in it. We went to a physical controller. The next generation around was cloud control. And there you had a wireless LAN controller that was in the cloud, that was sitting in the cloud. and you had multiple APs and cloud-based wireless LAN controllers sharing the control plane, the non-real-time tasks. So APs could handle all real-time and encryption tasks like previously, and then CAPWAP or CAPWAP-like tunnels required between access point and the cloud. So that's kind of, getting there. You'll see this evolution. And then you have the solution like ExtremeCloud IQ, and this is the thing that makes it so brilliant and so ahead of the game, because it was here that we went into the concept of cloud managed with distributed control. Now, the thinking behind this is really, really brilliant, because when you have cloud management, then the management plane, right? The management plane, the monitoring, reporting, troubleshooting, provisioning, setting up the policies, that stays on the management plane in the cloud. Now, in this instance of ExtremeCloud IQ, that cloud can be literally in the cloud, literally, figuratively in the cloud, and it also can be on-prem. You can have a system like ExtremeCloud IQ, or that is ExtremeCloud IQ, on the on-prem, okay? But essentially, it's cloud managed. And then the control plane, the traffic light, this is the beauty. It runs completely on the actual access points themselves. Okay? So management on the cloud, control plane, and of course data plane then lives completely on the access points, which means you're building the intelligence into the access points, and you now create for yourself distributed control. That's a beautiful thing. David used this term last week, a beautiful thing. I like that term, because with distributed control, you eliminate single point of failure. If you have a wireless LAN controller, it becomes a single point of failure. If it fails, you run the risk of not being able to do anything to those access points because this has failed. But with distributed control, it means the intelligence is built into every device. It's not a thin device anymore. Very scalable, highly scalable, and definitely suitable for enterprises. No doubt. Fantastic. So, why is distributed control so important? Well, because you can share the control plane. By sharing control plane across all your access points, you increase speed, you increase resiliency, and scale, right? Instead of just having one, you've got all of them doing the same thing, having the same power on them. No need to have dedicated wireless LAN controllers anymore. You remove that in a cloud solution like Extreme has got. You remove the need for the control plane being a physical device. So look at this little animation that we've got coming here. On an AP, you have fully, network, enterprise network, fully featured enterprise network. You have context-based security, deep packet inspection, encryption, application firewalls, mobile optimized performance. So that access point is connected to a switch, yes. Now we bring in a number of other switches because they're all on the control plane, because they all operate on there, because they have all of that information in them. They all talk to each other. Client associates to an access point securely. If that connection between that access point to a switch goes down, no problem. It can go another route. It can get back using another route. And if a client, for example, moves and goes to another device, hey, no problem. I've already told that next access point all about this client, about the session, about the security, so that they can roam really sweetly. And if something happens and that access point goes down and I'm no longer available, no problem. The next access point that's within range It knows about the control, it knows security, it knows the session, it knows all of that. No more single point of failure. It just continues. It's I suppose almost like a self-healing mesh. That is true power. That's the ultimate aim. That's the ultimate point, when all of these devices can operate almost autonomously. Now, this being Extreme Networks and this being Extreme Academy, let me just take you through a little bit about ExtremeCloud IQ, and just to show you how this is built, because it's important that you see, when we talk about the ability to scale, when we talk about the ability to grow, question is, how does this work? Well, in ExtremeCloud IQ, we have this concept of global data centers and then regional data centers. So some stuff will happen on a global data center, like your account will be created on a global data center, but then the regional data center, that will be the center where your data is kept. All the data that comes, not reading your email data, but the data about your wireless network, about radio performance, about this, about all those policies pushing down and all that type of data. That's what I'm talking about. They will be stored on the regional data centers. And this is very, very important because, and we'll get to that point about the data, because it's very important, for example, in the EU, that data has to be stored from EU citizens, has to be stored in Europe. It can't be stored outside of Europe. So when you have data in a regional data center, so for all of Europe, you could have a data center in Ireland, and all the data for all of Europe could be stored in that data center. Yes, Germany, for example, has much stricter rules than Europe. So for Germans, the data needs to be stored in a data center in Germany. Let me show you. Let me show you where. Okay, so it's on the next slide. So all of you have heard about by now, I'm sure, of GDPR. So GDPR is very, very important. It's this rule, this framework that says data from Europeans has to be stored on servers within Europe. The concept of security that I spoke to you, one of those 6 things, and I'll touch on that when I get to those 6 points. But you have in ExtremeCloud IQ, you have not only GDPR, but you also have ISO 27001. And recently, within the last week or two, we've got 2 more certifications. I think it's 27002. Oh, I'll need to find them. I think I'll. Rowan, can you do me a favor? If you've got that at hand, can you just put it in the chat? It's just escaped me now. I'm so sorry, but there's 2 more certifications. This certifies that not only is our data center, and Amazon and Microsoft, they all meet all of these requirements, but our software as well, we open it up to get that certification so that people can come in, outside parties can come in and look at the code to make sure that there isn't any holes in the code that allows those things to be compromised. So when we talk about a solution like cloud, a lot of people are worried about cloud. When we show them these certifications, they sit back and say, oh, okay, we really are the leader when it comes to cloud security. And here's some of the data centers that we had. I think this slide is already a little bit dated, but I think these are some of the data centers that we have around the world. For Amazon, but as you know, our cloud now can work with, our solution can work with Amazon, with Microsoft Azure, and also with the Google Cloud. So global data centers, regional data centers, and some customers have their own private cloud as well. So they have a cloud solution made up of their own servers on-prem, or possibly in one of these data centers. ExtremeCloud IQ can work with all of those. Incredibly, incredibly flexible. So Two more slides, really, and these I don't really want to focus. They're not part of the exam. They're not a major thing at all. It's just the next evolution. Well, next evolution. It's about a term called SDR, software defined networking. It's something that has promised hugely and is delivering, but probably not as fast as a lot of people expected it to deliver. It's when you kind of abstract the layers, some of the data layers, you abstract them from the hardware and you put them into software. Being able to isolate it for different users, so you decouple the control logic. Okay, I don't know massive amount about this. I read enough about this to know that this hurts my head when I go and read it, but I encourage you to go do a little bit of research, just so you know. These are the most popular solutions when you talk about software-defined networking. Feel free to take a screenshot and then go to these sites, go do some research and go learn a little bit about that. And I think that concludes this session on management. So I'm going to quickly run over a number of those 6 things and that I want to cover quickly that are really, really important. 6 things, 6 important things that you as an administrator, people as an administrator, if you are an administrator, 6 things that I've identified that are very important for you when you manage a wireless network, and when you consider what solution you should purchase, what solution you should get involved with. The first one is security. The first point is security, right? So this is one of the big obstacles that customers have. Oh, security, but my data's not here and my data's in the cloud and what of all of those things. Security is a couple of things. Number one, security of the provider, okay, of the people who are providing those big data centers. So ExtremeCloud IQ, we use Amazon, Microsoft, Azure, and we use Google Cloud. Those companies themselves have to have certifications, ISO certifications. So they have to have security, they have to have all sorts of rules. So they're already, you can imagine companies like Google and Microsoft, Amazon, that is their business. They are in that business. They run the world's clouds. So you can imagine the level of security that they have there. So that's one side of it, the operators. The second side of it, and of course, think about it, right? How many people use Office 365? It is using Microsoft's cloud, Same thing with Amazon and the other guys. So it's the one side of it. The second side of it is, what about the application? It's no good people saying, well, we are ISO certified 27001, and what they refer to is that it's the data center operator, they certified, not them. In Extreme Networks case, we are 27001 certified. Us are also 27701. 27001 was the one I say, yeah. 27701 certified, and we've recently got the 27017 certification. You can't get those certifications if you don't open up your code for people to come in and check. I mean, we've tried to make this course agnostic so that it's for everybody. But this case, I have to say, there's no other cloud management solution, network management system solution in place that is as secure as our solution is. It just doesn't exist. And when when our competitors catch up to where we are now, bye-bye, we are way ahead of them again. Number one, anybody is going to think about security. we've got it down. That's down. So that's an important consideration when considering, having a solution like this in the cloud. Second one is licensing. When I worked in South Africa and ran my own business, Microsoft used to have, I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have a course which ran, I think it was for an entire day or 2 days, that was only about licensing. Can you believe it? Just licensing. ExtremeCloud IQ's licensing is it's like eating a piece of apple pie. Honestly, you buy a device, it comes with a license, serial number, boom, it's activated, 3 years, whatever it is. Now listen to this. Let's say you're an engineer, you go up and you install it in the roof, and while installing it, it falls and smashes to pieces. You buy another one. The license that you originally bought is yours. You paid for that license. You just lift up the license and you now apply it to this device. The device died, no problem. The license lives on. If tomorrow that access point say, you know what, we don't need that access point. We've reduced the workforce after COVID. You know what, let's take down that access point. We don't need it. Put it in the cupboard. Yeah, but we paid a license for it. Listen, that license, you want to buy a switch from Extreme Networks, you can buy a switch and just simply take the license, plunk, put it onto that switch. That switch travels, that license travels with a hardware device, not a specific, it's not tied. So if that device dies, sorry, you lose your license. No, it's like, it just follows a device along. I mean, how simple is that? To make it even easier, we've made an app, right? An app on the phone, on the mobile phone. You got a device, just type in the thing, blah blah blah, the code. Soon you'll have to just be able to scan it, boom, and the information will be there, up in the cloud, as easy as that. So licensing, piece of cake. Third thing that's really important is reporting. Every network administrator knows that you can have a fantastic system that does 1,000,001 things, but if you have to jump hoops to get reporting, to get intelligence out of it, waste of time, absolute waste of time. Let me show you. Here I'm going to show you ExtremeCloud IQ. This is my own home network. So it doesn't have thousands and thousands of devices. There's a few devices over here. Access points. You can see access point is offline. That one over there, Bacon AP. This one is online. And then we have a switch here as well that are online. I want to get some stats for this. How easy is it? I mean, look at this interface. It's clean, easy. Down the left-hand side here, you just go into reporting. Let's go into the Network 360 plan. Okay, there's my home address. I click on the ground floor. There's a sketch that I made of my home, the lounge. Look at that. I've got one access point over there. You can see that the signal strength is brilliant all the way through. If I move it, watch the hotspot updates in real time. Okay, if I moved it there, look, I'd have a different signal. That's pretty cool. That's just, that's not even a report, but let's go here and let's look at Network 360 monitor. Okay, I look at my network, services, applications, security. Look at this. I mean, how easy is that to get to all of this data? Let's look at the scorecard, right? I have a scorecard over here, excellent, 80 to 100. Okay, I don't have a lot of excellence over here. I'm good on a lot of this stuff. Look at that. I mean, just it's so easy to get to that data. It's it's a piece of cake when you look at reporting, when you look at the stuff that you can do with this, and how easy it is to get to that data. How much easier do you want it to be? How much easier do you want do you want it to get? Look at that. So I'm looking at my network health now over the last hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours. I can go to 24 hours. If I want to change it, I can go to look at the last month, pull in the data. Look at that. That shows me my overall score, internet availability score, network usage. Now, with data like this, it leads to my next point, the ability to tune your network. When you've got data like this, it's easy to make the changes. When you've got data like this, you can see, okay, there is a problem over here, or there isn't a problem over here. We can see on the 5 gigahertz there's a problem, or there isn't a problem. We need to change off 2.4. So for you as a network administrator, managing, changing, tuning your network is so important. But if you don't have this type of visibility, if you don't have this type of reports, how do you tune? Do you tune by, I think we should do, I think? Stop tuning. Stop tuning by thumbsuck. Look at the data, look at the reports, and use this data here to make your network better, more efficient. What a better way to do this. And then look, the last thing that I wanted to cover, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I said 6, 5 updates. You know, if you want to do updates, whether you want to update one device or whether you want to update 50 devices, if they need updates, you can click on that, say I want to do a complete update. If you need to, you can see the difference between, you know, the last changes and the unpublished changes. You can see all of that data there. But let's go here and we'll go update devices. Let's do a Delta configuration, perform update, sit back, fold our arms, go drink a cup of tea, come back in a few minutes, and that device has been updated. You have the power to do updates like this. Imagine if you had 500 APs, you schedule them, you know, to do this update. Maybe when I say you schedule them, you schedule downtime, let's say between 11 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock in the morning. You come into an app like this, boom, let's do the update. Let's do 50 APs at a time. And you just set it up here. Off you go have your tea, come back 2-3 hours. You've gone through 50 APs, 100, 200, 300 APs, do 300 a night. How easy is it to do something like this? All running from within the cloud. You got an internet connection? That's all you need. That's all you need. Set it up. Even if you lose your connection, if you've set up the updates to go and you lose your internet connection, so what? It's running in the cloud. Doesn't matter. When you can reconnect, you get on. There you go. It's all finished already. Fantastic. Just keeps running. It is fantastic. Ease of use is wonderful. It's a fantastic solution. I don't know why I said 6, but I'm going to leave it at 5. Right, now, just to say this, and I think Roman is going to talk about this, we've covered a lot of content in these last 8 weeks, really, last 7 weeks plus today. We've covered a lot of content. Go for that exam. Don't forget, go and read. You feel free to take it on the first go. You know, as soon as Claire announces it, go in and do the exam. Maybe you'll pass. Fantastic for you. If you don't feel confident, if you're not sure, if you take it first time and you fail, go and watch some episodes again. Go and do some reading again. I couldn't cover everything that I wanted to cover in the amount of time that we had. Good luck. Go for it. Enjoy it. Thank you for this journey. Thank you for this for this time. I've loved teaching. I hope you've loved it as well. I hope you've had a good time. So we're gonna go now. I think we got a break coming up, and then we got a few other little interesting things and crazy things, and I think we got a ending video that you're gonna stay tuned for. So brilliant. Thank you.
Academy was created with one purpose in mind: to help educate and inspire you, the next generation of technologists, and prepare you for the workplace. Welcome to Extreme Academy. It's really exciting to know that as you're watching this video, this is your start of hopefully a long and prosperous career in IT. Extreme Academy aims to welcome you into the industry, give you valuable and relevant knowledge along with certifications that are going to help you stand out. Our courses require no previous knowledge in networking and are designed to give you the foundational knowledge needed, the bedrock to build upon as you take your next steps into the IT industry. You will also learn where the industry is heading and skills for the future, ensuring that you're equipped with your first job or whatever comes next. Across the Extreme Academy courses, you will have the opportunity to learn about how networks are built, managed, wireless technologies, network design considerations for different environments, the power of capturing data, and much, much more. But Extreme Academy isn't just about learning and knowledge. It's about gaining skills that help you get your first job in IT and help you thrive in your career from day one. Extreme Academy courses provide you with a qualification and evidence of knowledge through an industry certification. This is important because 91% of employers believe IT certifications play a key role in the hiring process, and that IT certifications are a reliable predictor of a successful employee. Furthermore, certification helps you reach higher starting salaries, and certifications on your resume will help you stand out. It's a smart move to get training and certification in networking and skills that underpin artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence will create more jobs than it eliminates, reaching 2 million net new jobs in 2025, according to Gartner. And as you start your journey into IT and networking, my advice to you while you're developing your career is this. First, surround yourself with people that you believe to be smarter than you. This will help push your knowledge, your understanding, your skills, and before you know it, you will be the expert leading the pack. Second, test your knowledge by teaching friends. There is no better measure of how well you know a concept, a technology, an idea, than when you have to teach it to somebody who knows nothing about it. And third, never lose context of your why, your purpose. If you have a passion in IT and technology, you will never work a day in your life. We can't wait to get started with you and are looking forward to hearing about your stories and job successes being hosted as part of Extreme Academy. It's worth mentioning, this is the first of many videos coming your way from familiar faces all around Extreme Networks, helping you learn more about networking and the industry at large. Make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell, and more videos will be served up to you as we support you on your way to becoming an Extreme Networks associate. And finally, remember this: investing in knowledge is investing in yourself.
Welcome back. Hope you had a good break. Hope you had a good stretch and got refreshed. So we're into part 2 now, and we've got some things to celebrate. So Isaac, what have we got to celebrate?
Oh man, Rowan, on the 3rd of December 2020, we broadcast the first Extreme Academy program, the very first one. And you know what? We have just gone past 500 XNA candidates. 500. Can you believe that? 500 just from December the 3rd until now. I mean, it's crazy. It's way beyond what we had imagined. Absolutely fantastic, right? It's a great reason for celebration.
Yeah, it's amazing, Isaac. So congratulations to all of you that have taken and passed that exam. Congratulations to you. Thanks for advancing with us. Thanks for advancing your careers with Extreme Academy. Great news.
That's not all. What you got there? Show me.
We got a birthday. We're going to celebrate a birthday, Isaac. So look, I got this.
Woohoo!
So why don't you? We got a birthday to celebrate. So I'm gonna light the candles, Isaac.
Okay.
It's a little bit.
I'll do my bit.
Bit of danger in the live stream. So why don't you sing, and I'll see if I can get these candles lit. And
okay. Let's go do that. All right, there we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Extreme Networks. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Extreme Networks. Now, look at that. I only got 3 of them lit. There we go. Happy birthday. Make a wish, Isaac. So happy birthday to Extreme Networks. Extreme Networks is 25 years old. Would you believe it, Isaac? So we got a cake. I just wanted to say from Extreme Academy.
Congratulations.
Happy birthday. Isaac, there's nobody else here. I'm working remotely, so I've got.
You're gonna have to eat it all yourself
now. I'm gonna have to, yeah. So, but Isaac, let's just dwell on this for a second. So, 25 years. What does that mean to you? Tell everybody what does it mean to you?
To me, networking is about connecting people, right? That's what it is. It's 25 years of connecting people via voice, via video. It's about emotion. Seen on a call, seeing a child being born. Talking to grandparents, for my kids to see their grandparents in Brazil and in South Africa. That's what networking is to me. It's about emotions. It's about connecting friends, doing stuff like this, just breaking those barriers that were there before. There are no more barriers. You're sitting in one part of the UK, I'm in Cambridge, and our students are all over the world. So to me, what an incredible achievement to have a company like Extreme Networks participate in the industry. It's fantastic to me. Lots of congratulations to Extreme.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my thoughts on that, Isaac, is it's like being part of, like in the past you had the agricultural revolution, you had the industrial revolution. Like we're in one of those times right now, and we're all playing a part of it. You're all playing a part of that. So 25 years, that's the birthday we're celebrating at the moment for Extreme. But I'm excited about the future. I think everything that's happened so far with the internet and how people have got connected, I think that's going to be dwarfed in terms of impact in the next 25 years. So I'm super excited. And you all should be excited as well. If you're new to the industry, don't think it's all done. Don't think it's all done, and you're coming into a mature industry. It's changing.
If you just think, Rowan, back a few years ago, before the iPhone, before the smartphone came around, right? We had phones, but there was no internet, there was no apps, there was none of that. And along came this company, and they changed the paradigm. And today we just take it for granted that we have a supercomputer in our hands. And I think that's part of what Extreme is part of now, right? Is taking this. Yes, it will always be bits and bytes, but just removing that complexity, making stuff easy, that old network engineers like us and guys older than us, in years to come, they'll say, gee, when I was young, man, it wasn't this easy. And that's what Extreme is part of, just taking that shroud of mystery around it and just making this, clear and easy for everybody. The future is phenomenal. I can't wait for the next 25 years.
Absolutely. Me too, Isaac. Okay, so happy birthday, Extreme. There's lots more to come. If you're not already registered, then make sure you register for Extreme Connect. You'll hear more about what's coming in the future. So we'll put the registration URL in the chat window or on the screen, so you know how to register for Extreme Connect. It's coming up just in a few weeks. Okay, that's a celebration over for the moment. Let's have a little look back now at what we've done in the course so far. So we put together a little montage of clips just to remind you of everything that's been covered. We've covered an enormous amount in the course so far. So Claire and the team, they've put together a little montage, a few highlights, a few funny moments. So Claire, why don't you roll that video and let's remind ourselves of what we've covered so far in this course.
Hello and welcome to Extreme Academy Live. This is where you come to advance your skills, advance your knowledge, and advance your future. Thanks for advancing with us.
I love that. I always love watching those things when we stitch all these little pieces together, like the bloopers and stuff like that. I love that. I love watching stuff like that. Favorite moments. Hey, listen, talking about favorite moments, what was your favorite moment, Rowan, on this course over these last 7 modules that we covered?
Well, so much. We covered so much, haven't we, Isaac? Standout moment for me was April Fool's. It was week 1. We did the ruffle thing. Remember that? That was a lot of fun. But the other thing, Isaac, that came as a highlight for me was it kind of it relit my passion for physics, and I really got into the the physical side of the radio waves, and how they travel, and how it's how this is energy that it's electrical energy going onto an antenna, and then that's giving off a wave, an electromagnetic wave, which is it's a force of nature, right? Isn't it, Isaac? This is not a man-made thing. This is a force of nature that was discovered and then has been utilized to transmit data. So I really got into trying to understand what is that wave, because really that wave, that energy traveling through the air, it's just the same as it's carrying a 0 and a 1 and on and off. So it's just a modern version of a light. A lighthouse, a signal going on and off, or a beep on Morse code, or a smoke signal going on and off. So that fascinated me. It kind of relit a passion for physics for me. And I got a book because I wanted to dig deeper, and I wanted to give a plug for this book. So everybody take a look at that. It's called Light by Kimberly Arcand and Megan Watts. And what I really liked about this book was it was just full of pictures. And if you're at school or college right now, this is probably in your textbooks. But if you're like me and you're more visual, and you want to you want to leaf through a book and learn about something in a more visual way, then I really recommend this book. So there you go, Light. And if you want to go deeper into the topic of the physics behind radio, then I really recommend that. So that for me, Isaac, that was the thing for me. Really, getting down, beyond the technology, trying to understand, the magic. It's like what's actually happening when these radio waves travel through the air from my phone and out of my phone. What about you? What was your highlight?
I think when an instructor teaches, I think the thing that we enjoy the most is we learn. When you teach, you learn, and to be able to teach this stuff, you have to go and research and study about all of this. So kind of like you, my interest was in how do I explain this in a way that people really understand, and that was a challenge. I had quite a few nights where I was waking up at 2-3 in the morning thinking, how do I show people a radio wave? You can't see it, but you can see the effects of it. Then I had this idea, waves are, radio waves, you have light waves as well, you have sound waves, and they kind of have the same property. So that's when I drove out to that little lake near my house and threw that log in, and you see those waves of energy. So that was when I got that was kind of my eureka moment, like, I can explain it like this. So that was cool. The other thing that I don't just have one, I have more than one. I really enjoy the feedback that people get. So we've got a number of emails from different people just saying how they've enjoyed the course, how this has inspired them to get back into wireless networking and stuff. So that's always, for an instructor to get that type of feedback, that's really wonderful. So, and then Mallard, driving to that radio astronomy, and driving that road I've driven so many times, but this time stopping and going and suddenly seeing that big satellite dish. Oh, I can't wait, for the restrictions to be completely lifted, and then I can go and get a tour of that place. That'll really be fantastic. But yeah, from I had many happy moments in this one, but it's the last episode of this course. But what's next? Because there's a lot of people sitting here watching this and saying like, okay, so it's like Game of Thrones. What's next? What's coming in the next? What's coming in the next episode? So I'll leave that one to you, because you know the stuff well. So tell us what's coming up next, Rowan.
Sure,
Whet our appetite. Yeah,
absolutely. And there's a lot coming. So we're delighted with the way Extreme Academy has been going. We're delighted with the community. So thanks to all of you watching. We've got more courses to come during this calendar year. So I'll talk about a few of those, Isaac. And we've got a slide. So while I'm speaking, maybe Claire, you can bring up the slider, a couple of times. So we have a business orientated class. Now this one's a little bit different to the two we've done so far, because this is more about a broader picture of what's happening in the IT industry. It's really for you if you're trying to advance your career in IT, or if you're trying to get a job in IT, then this is going to be a great course for you, because it builds on the technical fundamentals you've learned about in course 1 and 2, but it gives you a rounded picture of what's going on. And essentially, the target here is to help you get that job, help you get the job you want. Because when you go for the interview, rather than just being technically astute and knowing what everybody else knows in that interview process, it's going to give you opinions. You'll be able to express an opinion. You'll have perspective on what's going on. You'll have an eye to the future. We're gonna have people on this course that are gonna, the people that we employ, like David Coleman, like others. These are the people that can see around corners. They can see what's coming, and we're going to be covering that in the course. We're going to be talking about customers, projects. It's a real. It's going to give you a real advantage as you go to plan your career. So that's work in progress. We're rounding off the edges on that one. The other course that we're working on is about design. So you've done fundamentals of network and wireless. The design course is going to go into more deeper technical topics. So think about how would you design. What are the design considerations for a network in a big hospital or an airport? Imagine an airport where you've got all these shared services with different organizations, retail, logistics, the airplanes coming in, the airlines. They're all separate organizations, but they're all sharing the same infrastructure, critical infrastructure that cannot go down. So what are the types of things that you need to think about when you're designing those big networks? So we get into that in the design course. And then the third one that's going to come this year is all about the future, and this is super exciting. We're going to have the cleverest people that we've got in Extreme as well. And you're one of those, Isaac. I know you're working on this at the moment, and this is all going to be about what are the future things around networking. And I say future, but we have some of those things now. So we're gonna start showing you what can the networking technology, the cloud technology that you covered in the first half, Isaac. What does that stuff do, and what's coming next? What's the intelligence that's gonna come through in terms of the data that can be in data and insights that come out of a network, and so networks are going to become more intelligent, more autonomous. They're also going to become simpler as well. So we're going to show you some of the future and give you some skills that are going to really help develop. So those are the three, Isaac. Now I can't see which one's coming next, because it'll be between the design course and the business course. It'll be one of those, but we're just it'll be whichever one's ready first. So expect a gap now. So there'll be a gap between today and the next course. But we'll make sure that everybody gets the communication to let you know when the next one's starting up. We'll do some publicity around that, so nobody will miss out. And so Isaac, that's what's coming next. We're super excited. But while people are waiting for the next course, Isaac, why don't you are there things people can do to keep learning, to keep collaborating, keep connected with Extreme Academy? Any tips? Anything we can do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, we're not going to abandon this community, until the next course runs. No, for sure not. You remember 3 weeks ago, we announced the release of the availability of our Discord server. So we'd been talking about that for a long time, but now this has become reality. It's grown really quite nicely. At the moment, we've got about we've passed 120 people on there. I mean, it's small, it's early days, but never despise small beginnings. And we've got a couple of moderators on there as well. and it's starting to get traction. After the course on security, it started to get some really nice traction, and so we are going to be moving from interacting on here into interacting and building this community on Discord. The QR code is going to appear somewhere, and it's appeared a couple of times. Really easy to sign up and join that community. Feel free, come in. There's a couple of rules: behave yourselves, but come and have a lot of fun on there. Now, one of the things already that got me really interested was one of the guys asked about, hey, you know what, how do I go about building a lab? You know, if I wanted to build a lab to teach myself wireless, you know, you guys last week we spoke about, you know, WPA, WPA2, WPA3, TSK. We spoke about so many of those little things, but how do you actually learn, right? We mentioned things like, you know, if you really want to learn, you break it, you fix it, you break it, you fix it a couple of times, and building your own lab, having a couple of access points and a switch and putting Wireshark onto there and stuff, so that you can see with your own eyes, you know, when you make a change, what actually happens, looks at the log file. And I thought that was an absolutely fantastic project that people could come and contribute to, right? People who really know and have done this before, help other people. It's not going to cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars to be able to build this, but imagine having your own little wireless lab at home, couple of access points, a switch, this, you know, where you can learn, take a knowledge and test it and play with it. I think that is fantastic. So hopefully there will be other ideas that we can collaborate and learn from each other and go and build it. Maybe we can do something with Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. That would be so cool. So please come and join the community. I'm on there occasionally. Hopefully we'll be able to start doing like radio audio broadcasts on there, you know, having meetings where we just chat, talk nonsense or whatever, you know, on weekends and stuff like that, but build a nice community of friends, of people who are interested in Academy, and start to build this thing out and help each other. So many people on here are so willing to help others. Bring that help instinct across and come and help others to grow and stuff like that. So that's going to keep on going all the time and going to keep on building, and it's free. If you don't like it, we give you your money back completely, every cent we give it back to you. The next thing that we're going to the next thing that I want to talk to you about is about the exam. So you know that in XNA course 1 we had the exam that you write, the XNA exam on future networking. Now there is another exam that's going to become available to you, and listen to me carefully. Those of you who've watched all of these episodes or many of these episodes, don't stop there. Don't stop there and say, I've watched it, I know everything. The goal of these Academy videos and Academy training courses was to help you to get a job if you don't have one, or to change job, or if the COVID pandemic has put you in a situation where you don't have anything, you know, another route to go. Maybe you've been in networking for a long time and you wanted a change, because networking is so broad, right? It's got security and wireless and all sorts of stuff, and the idea was here to inspire you, to light your fire, to give you that oomph that you need to take your career to the next level. And what better way than showing it with a certification? I know IT people say, we don't need certifications. Certifications mean nothing. Well, in a sense, that's true, right? What can you do? What can you bring to the table? That's ultimately what you want. But never forget that an employer, somebody like Extreme, somebody like, you know, who a technology company, how do they know? They can't just take your word for it. They want to know that you've gone through the discipline of getting that exam. So don't cross the ocean and then die when you get to the beach, drown at the beach. Go all the way. Don't cross. You've been there for 7 episodes, whatever. Don't stop now. You know, do the extra. Go and get that exam. Go and get that certification, and then you'll have 2 XNA certifications. Go and do it. I want to see who's going to be the first person to get that XNA. I'm going to be on LinkedIn, going to be like, woohoo, we got our first one. I'm interested to see which country it's coming from and who it's going to be that's going to get that first XNA on building secure and robust wireless networks. So come on, let me encourage you. You're going to have to do it. It's not, I don't think it's going to be, child's play. You're going to have to really do some thinking on this one. We don't make things that easy like anybody can pass. No, this is an industry certification. So you're going to have to work at it. If you don't get it first time, Claire will tell you what you need to do. So Claire, if you don't mind, can you just switch over to yourself now, and please tell us everything about how this exam is going to be. Now listen up. Do you know how many emails I got and how many people contacted me on LinkedIn saying, oh, can you tell me about the exam and where can I find it and how do I sign? Listen carefully. Claire is going to tell you everything you need to know. Don't ask me. Don't ask Rowan. She is going to tell you everything you need to go. So make sure you listen carefully, take down notes, because she will give you the A to Z of exactly what you need to do to go get that exam. Claire, take it away.
Hi, and thank you so much for the introduction, Isaac. I can't believe we're here again. It's exam time for course 2. We've had nearly 500 certifications for our first course, Introduction to Future Networking, and a lot of those people are you. You're the ones that are sat here now. You've done course 1, you're now ready to take the certification for course 2. Some of you haven't. So this is why I'm going to take a few minutes to explain to you how you can access our second course exam for the wireless course. So sit back, enjoy. You may have already gone through this process, but not to worry, I will talk you through what you need to do if you have already signed up with us. What you need to do is navigate yourself to our Extreme Academy page. You can go to this URL, and once you're on our Extreme Networks page, if you take yourself to the top right hand corner, log in, and from there, you just need to click Support Portal. This will take you to the login section for Extreme Academy. So it's good to mention here, as before, if you do already have an Extreme Networks portal account with us, you will not need to create a new account. If you're new to us, if this is the first time you're doing an exam, please click the Create a New Extreme Academy Account button, where it will take you through to the registration page. Again, if you do have an account with us, you can use your credentials to enter in your email address, your password, and log in. This will take you straight to the Extreme Dojo page. As I mentioned, if you are new with us, just enter out your registration information, confirm the terms and conditions, and then you can register. Once registered, you should receive an email almost instantly. Please remember to check your spam or junk folders for these emails. And once you've got your email, you'll be able to click the hyperlink which says Extreme Login Page, and that will take you through to create yourself a new password. Again, just a last reminder, if you do have an Extreme Portal account with us, you don't need to do this again, and you can just directly log in straight to the dojo. You create your new password, and that's it, you're set up. So now you're ready to take the exam. You can use this QR code or the URL that's at the bottom of the screen. This will take you straight through to the Course 2 exam. As you can see here, there's some key elements that you need to take note of before you hit the Start Exam button. We have 40 questions, it's a pass mark of 75%, and you've got 60 minutes to do the exam. It's multiple choice, so take your time and review the questions before you answer. Once you're ready, click the Building Secure and Robust Wireless Networks exam tick button. This will take you through to a secondary page, which gives you a chance to just re-review the rules of the exam before you start. And that's it. Once you've completed the exam, you're now an Extreme Certified Associate with us in our Wireless Networks course. I can't believe it. For a lot of you, that'll be your second badge with us in Extreme Academy. For some of you, it might be your first, but that's fine. We've got a lot more to come, and I'm so excited to take this journey forward with you and everyone here at the Academy team. Good luck, and back to the guys.
There you go. She's told you everything. Don't ask us again. Just follow those instructions. Rowan, we're coming to the end. What now?
It's the end, Isaac. Yeah. What now? How are we going to finish this? Well, we had an idea. I was chatting to Isaac, and we said, right, we've got to come up with a way of ending this course. Remember, it's not the end of Academy; it's the end of this course. We thought, how are we going to end it? And I said to Isaac, why don't we take everybody right back to the beginning? Why don't we go right back and talk about the people or the person that started this whole thing? And I said, Isaac, do you know who that was? And why don't you shout some names out, Isaac? Who did you? Who came to mind?
Well, Marconi, of course, Mr. Marconi.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the start of radio, so it has to be him.
Earlier, before him.
Well, before him was Hertz. We say Hertz, but yeah, the German scientist, the brilliant German scientist Hertz.
No. Earlier. We go further back. So this is this is what we did. Okay, so we said, okay, let's end by going right back to the beginning. And I said to Isaac, why don't we go up to London? We're allowed, in the UK, we're allowed to move around a little bit more now. So I said to Isaac, why don't we take a trip up to London and go and visit the place of work of the person that started this whole thing. And the person we're going to talk about is James Clerk Maxwell. So we want to celebrate what he did. And he did that in London. You're going to see it coming up. And he was the first to theorize on the electromagnetic spectrum. So he laid the groundwork for everything that came afterwards. So that's how we're going to end, Isaac. We put together a little film. We want to say goodbye to you in course 2 by taking you all the way back to the beginning. So Claire, why don't you roll that film, and let's show you where all this started.
Saron and I decided that we would go down to London, and we would go and look at where this all started. This whole journey that we've done in wireless, in Academy, in this particular course, where did it all start? Let's go back to the origin of where it all started.
This is our journey into London. Isaac's coming down from Cambridge. He came on the train, a 50-60 mile high-speed train journey into King's Cross, nice and central. I decided to drive. I came up from the southeast, up through the Blackwall Tunnel into the East End, and then across the West End to meet Isaac. So enjoy the sights of London as we travel up, and take a look at this. Decide which would have been your preferred mode of transport. Who do you think arrived the most relaxed?
apart from the joy of seeing my colleague Rowan for the first time in over a year, the real reason that we came here, as we said earlier, was to come and honor the man James Clerk Maxwell. Born in 1831, he was professor of natural philosophy at King's College in the 1860s, when he brought the concept of magnetism, electricity and light together in this incredible system of equations. James grew up in Scotland. His mother described it as a really incredible child, and at 14 years old, James had written his first scientific paper, but he had to use a Professor James Forbes to hand in the paper because he was considered too young to present the work himself. He studied at Edinburgh and, of course, naturally, Cambridge University. At the age of 25, he was offered a professorship at Marischal College in Aberdeen. In 1861 and 62, he published 3 papers that formulated the classical theory of electromagnetic radiation, where for the first time he brought together electricity, magnetism and light as different manifestations of the same phenomenon. That paved the way for radio, television, radar, mobile phones. Yeah, that very phone that you're holding in your hand, wireless. This was it. This was the man. His discovery was so great that Albert Einstein commented that one scientific epoch ended and another one began with James Clerk Maxwell. To this man, we owe an enormous amount. Thanks, James.
Imagine that we get Marconi and Maxwell in the same day.
Imagine that, they were across the road. Slightly different time. Marconi was there a little bit later. He was across the road from where James Clerk Maxwell started this whole thing.
And that's where we were previously, at Chelmsford West.
So Isaac, it's been an amazing series. It's great. You've done an amazing job. I think I owe you lunch. What do you want for lunch?
What I want for lunch? Let's think. Cucumber sandwiches.
I think.
There's only one place for us to go to. We have to finish this off with.
5 can be